Hello guys, welcome back to Ecox Media. Here is explosive Friday, February 28, 2025 interview with Senator Natasha Akpoti, Senator representing Kogi Central in the 10th Assembly. In this revealing discussion, Senator Natasha opens up about her recent ordeal in the Senate House, her intense confrontation with the Senate President, and shocking allegations of sexual harassment against him.
The sitting arrangements. I walked into the chambers that morning. I signed my attendance sheet, and I was walking straight to my usual seat, which is the last seat by the door, like at the topmost last seat by the aisle. So, and then I was told by one of the sergeant at arms that, "Oh, ma'am, that is no longer your seat. You are now sitting at the far end there." And I was like, "Since when?" They said, "Well, that's what the Senate President instructed." I was like, "I was in chambers yesterday, which was Wednesday. I've not been notified. Why did you change my seat? What reason? I'm comfortable here. I'm okay here. I wasn't notified to that." So I was upset. And then I said I refused to move to the new seat. I don't even know what the new seat is. I don't even know the number. I don't know. But they told me it was the last seat, appointed the last seat at the far end. So then the procession came. The president walked in to the seat, and then the rest was shown online. I was already told, by the way, that I should gently move. Some senators messaged me that I should please adhere to the change and move to my seat because that was a trap, a setup. And I was trying to understand what trap, what setup. At that point, the minority leader, Senator Abamoro, walked up to me. And he told me, "Natasha, please just obey. Just go to that seat." And I'm like, "No, sir. You are my leader. You should speak for me. I am not aware that my seat has been changed. And I believe I should be given a chance. Maybe they should explain to me why my seat was changed. Maybe I can also explain why, if they could maybe consider leaving me here, that I'm not moving." He said he pleaded with me that I should please move to the other seat and not explain that we could address it later. And I said, "Sir, I have hit these chambers. I have complained, and you have witnessed several of my privileges, me being maligned several times, and you never stood up for me. So no, I am not moving there because I do not trust that if I move, this matter will be addressed. So I am going to raise it on the floor." That was what I told my leader, who is the leader of the minority, Senator Abamoro. And then he walked. So after that, I was about to be... Then the minority whip now read the rules that I have broken the Senate rule by not adhering to my seat change.
Allocation,
and that was when, at the time the Senate President was about to read my seat allocation. At the time the Senate President was about to read, because the next thing he was going to do was to read my suspension because I failed to adhere to that. So at that point, I knew I had to read Order 10.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to read Order 10. Now, what is Order 10? Many people don't understand. So now, Order 10 is an SOS for every senator who feels their rights and privileges have been breached. So and permit me to quickly read what Order 10 here means. Any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move without notice a motion declaring that the contempt or breach of privilege had been committed. Now here it is. It does not say I cannot read that order in that place. Whenever a senator feels that their rights have been trifled upon, I have the right, even if I'm laying on the floor, wherever a senator is in that place. This order book does not say Order 10 should be read from a particular seat.
Okay, Senator Natasha, let me come in here.
I have no right to speak from that seat, that I should speak from my new seat.
Yes.
The Senate President aired. Hold on, please. This is a very important point.
Okay.
The Senate President himself made a mistake by not allowing me to speak on that Order 10, because it says here, and let me mention number 11. When a matter of privilege,
Senator Natasha, I'm going to have to come in here. Senator Natasha, I am going to have to come in here. Thank you so much.
Yes, please.
You'll have more time to explain, but we have such limited time and we want to get as much out of this interview as possible. Well, thank you for expressing and opening up your statement. So what I assume from what you said now, because that was the question I was going to ask you, was the Senate Standing Orders, Chapter 362. A senator may only speak from the seat allocated to him provided that the President of the Senate may change their location from time to time. So what you're saying is that Order 10 trumps Order 6-2 in terms of your ability to speak. But you can respond to that after I ask this question. Based on that, you made allegations last week, Thursday, in the chamber saying that you've been maligned. In fact, you said to the Senate President on the floor, in the chambers, that you are not afraid of him. Can you share or expatiate on what you mean by that? And when you had a follow-up interview, you were talking about how some of your privileges were deliberately taken away from you. What was the motive behind this? And then finally, is this exclusive to you alone? Or is it just because, I mean, there are many things that have come up because you're a woman, there are only 4 women in the House, you and the Senate President have personal altercations that have now appeared in the chambers. Is this the privileges being withdrawn from you exclusive to you alone, and why do you think that is?
Now, thank you. Indeed, the Senate President has the right to allocate seats to every senator, and the senator should speak from that allocated seat. But here it is. I was not about to make a debate. Neither was I about to contribute to a motion. I was reading an SOS, which is a lifeline of any senator. For any senator to have invoked Order 10, that means his privileges were already, or her privileges were already infringed upon and denied. And that can be raised anywhere at any time. So once a senator shouts Order 10, believe me, even if I'm being dragged on the floor and I say Order 10, they are supposed to listen to me. Wherever I sit in that place, that's why I said any senator may rise at any time to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and I should be prepared to move same. So in this part, the Senate President, once I raised Order 10, he ought to have allowed me to speak, and then he could have maybe taken his own discretion to overrule it, or move that complaint to the Ethics and Privileges Committee. But the Senate President failed to do that. Instead, he ordered that the Sergeant at Arms should move me out of the chambers and prepare for my suspension.
Okay, next question.
Now, you're talking about my outburst. Yes, I did mention. I did mention that my rights in the Senate there, I have been dehumanized, I have been maligned and all what. And that outburst, I believe that the seat change was just the straw that broke the camel's back. A lot has been going on. And you asked, I'm just going again, trying to mix up the question.
Yes, that's fine.
Mix with this
so I asked you, you made a statement that you've been maligned, you are not afraid of the Senate President, and that I asked if this was exclusive to you alone or if this is a particular trend.
Yeah, that outburst, that's what I'm about to explain that.
Yes.
Yes, so many people do not know what I'm about to say, but I'm going to speak my own truth. And the Senate President is allowed to counter that. It all started on the 8th of December, 2023, which was a day before his birthday and my birthday. We are birthday mates. We were all in Akpabio because he had a big fanfare in the stadium. Myself, my husband, and a few of his close friends, we went to Akpabio. And at first, we were at Akpoti. We were in his house in Akpoti. Then we all moved to his house in Uyo, which was about 8 p.m. And he held my hand and said he wanted to show me around his house. My husband was walking behind us, just 3 of us. We're walking around from room to room. He showed me the beautiful interior. This was done by this, by that, this designer here, he bought this from us. Like, oh, it's beautiful. And then I noticed that he hastened his pace while still holding my hand. And my husband was behind, still on his phone, but he was catching up whenever he could. And then he got to this particular sitting room, and he said, "Do you like my house?" I said, "Of course, sir. Every room, beautiful, nice interior, quality taste." He said, "Now that you're a senator, I'm going to create a time for us to come spend quality moments here. You will enjoy it." At that point, I just pulled away, and I was like, I don't really understand what exactly that meant. But then my husband now, when I turned around, I saw my husband was already near me, and the way my husband looked at me and looked at him, I was beginning to wonder, did he hear part of that inciting statements or not? And then the Senate President, too, I saw that he also had that thought, like, did my husband hear the invitation to treat or not? So then the Senate president now said, oh, by the way, let me show you my chapel. He has a chapel in his house as well. So while we were going to the chapel, we walked in silence and all. So that evening, before we left the Senate president's house at about 11 midnight to the 4 points in Ikotekpene. And my husband asked me, Natasha, what did the Senate president whisper to you? What's he telling you? I thought, should I tell him that he was speaking about bringing me in here at a special time for us to have a good time? Or should I just kill it there, wrap it as if there was nothing? Because tomorrow was a big day. I know how much my husband adores the Senate president. He loves him as a brother. My husband would do anything to support him. So I told my husband, nothing. I can't remember what I created, but I just gave him some words to manage, to mask what was said. When we laid in bed, I looked to my right and my husband wrapped his arms around me and he said, my love, you can't tell me anything. What did the Senate president tell you? Again, I was like, don't you believe me? I said, nothing. Nothing. Moreover, it's my birthday in a few minutes. Let's just be happy. Then my husband told me he doesn't want to see me travel out of the country alone, and I should not go to the Senate president's house because he has a guest house where many senators do go there, after office to get approvals and all that. So I told him, okay, no problems. That was it. I thought that was going to be the end. But then, in February, I wanted to move a motion. I wanted to move a motion for the investigation on the ills of corrupt practice in Ajakuta Steel Company. I listed that motion 5 times. It was the 6th time that it was listed on the order paper that was approved. Many senators can testify to that. Each time the motion is listed, just before he takes it, he will say, oh, Senator Natasha, we can't take this motion because the board of the Senate does not accommodate it. Or he will speak on others and then let it drag so that just before my motion is taken, the time will be well spent and won't. So he kept on doing that. I went to him in his office. And I said, Senate President, you know how important this Ajakuta Steel Company to me is. You know how important it is to my people and to Nigerians. I've noticed that you have stepped down this motion. As a matter of fact, a number of senators told me, go and see him and plead with him so that he would take it. I was like, sir, please, why can't you take this motion? It's very important. It's been listed. Then it was listed a 3rd time and stepped down. He then said, Natasha, I'm the chief presiding officer of the Senate. You can enjoy a whole lot if you take care of me and make me happy. At that point, I said, sir, I'll pretend that I didn't hear this. He said, well, the ball is in your court. I left his office, and when I got home, I told my husband, I didn't tell my husband what happened. I just told my husband, please, can you speak to the Senate president to allow my motion scale through? I think I also spoke to the DSP, to the leader, Senator Pemi. I spoke to a number of senators that they should please intervene and allow him to laugh. I never told them what happened. My husband had to take a trip to London. Then the Senate president traveled to London. My husband met with the Senate president in London and pleaded with him, let my wife take this motion on Ajakuta. That is very important to her. Okay. All right, Senator Natasha. Said, okay, that he did not take it because he was protecting me. Hold on, please. He didn't take it because he was protecting me. Protecting me from what? Anyway, at the time my demotion was taken, it was the Deputy Senate President, His Excellency Barao, that actually sat. The Senate President stood up and walked out. So it was Senator Barao that actually took it.
All right, Senator Natasha.
And from there, many other incidents happened.
Yes, Senator
Let's
Natasha.
talk about the nightclub. Yes. Hold on, let's talk about the nightclub incident.
Professor Kila is going to ask you a question. I'm so sorry to have to interject here. But I just want to mention that, and I'm glad you gave the caveat at the beginning of your statement, that this is your side of the story and the Senate President has the right to defend himself or to counter what happened between you privately. So what I assume, or for what you're saying, is that what happened last week Thursday began from a private conversation, and then you have felt like you've been maligned as a result of you not agreeing to certain propositions, right?
Yes.
Okay, so
what has happened? You know the same story of when a student keeps being failed.
Yes.
Please, let me say this, Ayo. You know the situation we see in universities whereby a student is continuously being failed just because she has not slept with the lecturer. That's what I've been facing, in simple terms.
Thank you. Professor Kila.
That is what I have been going through.
Thank you very much,
And
Professor Kila.
now, moving to, should I speak about the nightclub incident?
No, that's okay. Professor Kila will come in now. Thank you.
Don't do that. It's barely time to come in because you've just indicted the lecturer indirectly. And I'm coming to ask you a question. Senator, it is from your side of the story, it is clear that there's a lot of undercurrent and personal issues that had led to the, should we call it the outburst on the allocation of chair thing. There's a lot going on, and you've made a series of allegations which indicts the Senate President morally, if not criminally, at least. And there's the indictment of abuse of power, because if he's refusing you to do your duty for personal reasons, we need to see if he has the right to do that. But let me ask you a question, just to simplify. This idea of your seat was reallocated and you don't want to use it. What's in a seat? Why was it so important for you not to just move as you've been told to do so and deal with it later? What's the importance of saying no to that seat allocation?
Thank you so much, Professor Kila. Sitting arrangements in the National Assembly or in the chambers is very critical. That is why at the forefront, we have the leadership. And after them, we have ranking senators, second-timers, third-timers sitting there. And the nearer you are to the Senate President, the more visible you are. You're able to interface with the daily activities, and then you are more visualized, the cameras capture you more. You're more present as against being a backbencher. So where I am sitting, the Senate President sits at the lowest point, while I am sitting at the topmost point, but on the same level.
So, Senator, it is, Senator, I'll recap for you.
So whenever I stand,
it is safe to say that
where I was moved to, was
you felt they were reducing you.
Where the workers, the chamber staff sit.
So you felt they were relegating you. They were relegating you.
If they say, hold on, exactly. Let me say this.
Yes.
His excuse that it's because there were 2 vacant seats due to the decamping of the senators, right?
Yes.
And that why did they have to pick on me to start the shift? There were other senators that were in front of me that would have filled the seat. Okay. Why did it have to be me to fill in the seat at the far corner? But I will say this again. If you see where I sit at the back, there is a silent degrading of senators that, as I say, came from court.
Yeah.
We are made to feel as if we are lower than our other colleagues that resumed office and were sworn in earlier than us, even though we're all first-timers. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I remember when I asked, initially, I asked why I was not sitting amongst my other first-time colleagues.
Yes.
And I was told that is because you resumed 6 months later. So it's almost like a punishment because I resumed 6 months later. Therefore, I have to sit or take seats or wait for my other colleagues whom we all ran elections with together and won together, even though we were rigged.
So Senator,
we were made to sit at the back. So after me,
it seems clear to me.
Senator Akpabio, 2 weeks after me. Yes.
So it seems to me, from your own narrative, straight from your own narrative, that you feel victimized and you feel you're being treated like a second-class senator in that place. Let me ask you a question based on your own narrative.
I have a very important...
No, but very quickly, you're going to say, let me just ask you just this question.
Professor.
Yes, just this very question. Do you feel that other senators in that house, male or female or different party, do you feel that they're standing up to what they ought to be doing, or do you feel they are also, with their silence, complicit with your victimization? I want you to judge the whole Senate, 109 men and women.
No.
Okay. You don't feel they're complicit, and you don't want to...
Now, here it is. I have enjoyed tremendous support from my colleagues. And the fact that a number of my colleagues have not spoken out publicly in my defense or criticize what has happened does not mean that they do not visit me privately at home or they do not call on me to give me words of encouragement. Why they are yet to come up openly and criticize the activities of the Senate President, probably that's best known to them. However, one question I have been asked a number of times is, why are the women silent? Why are the 3 other women silent?
Yeah, so why,
But I would
Senator? Why
say
do you
this.
think they're silent?
The day I filed the suit of defamation, the suit that sexualized, whereby the Senate President's SLA on new media, Mr. Patrick Mfong, sexualized me by addressing my attire as being transparent, and that the only thing I know how to do is to wear pancake to the chambers. So when I filed that suit, Senator Ireti Kingibe, hold on, Senator Ireti Kingibe, Senator
Natasha,
and Senator
we're low on time,
3 women
please.
who send messages to me that they do not support the litigation. And none of them have called, apart from Senator Ireti, that called my husband to tell me to withdraw that suit and all that. And my husband charged her that you were the same person who had come to the house to tell him that the ST was hitting on his wife sexually. So why are you now against my wife standing up for her rights? So let me tell you something, Mr. Which nobody knows. No, Mr. Rufai, please allow me to say this, please.
Please go ahead.
Can I say this?
Please go ahead, Senator. Please go ahead.
Now, at the nightclub incident, I believe that was not a slip of tongue. That was not a slip of tongue. He has a number of times told me that there are various ways we can have fun. If we travel, he has a way of making the whole the house, the space. He can basically create a party in the space. Do you understand? Like a nightclub in the space and would have fun and all of that. So that nightclub incident statement was not a mistake. It was more like out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. But let me say this. The day before please, Rufai, let me laugh.
Go ahead, Natasha.
Go ahead.
Let me speak.
Please go ahead. Well,
if you don't want me to speak, I'll walk out and complete this on my Facebook, please.
Please go ahead. We're
Natasha.
trying to manage time, Senator, but go ahead and finish it quickly. We're trying to manage time, but please go ahead.
The night, or should I say that morning, early hours of the morning that he apologized, which was 23rd of July, 2024. That was the morning he apologized. So the night I have it printed here, I have the screenshots of the phone call. It was 14 minutes past midnight when my phone rang. The leader of the House called me, Senator Michael Bamidele Okpeyemi called me, and he said, Senator, how are you? I said, I'm fine. He said, in the wake of all of this rancor, if the Senate President goes down, I will go down too. And I said, what do you mean, sir? At that point, I woke my husband up because he had fallen asleep before me. I said, are you calling me to threaten me? I could hear murmurs from the Senate President. I could hear the Senate President's voice at the background because I could tell he was on speakerphone. He said, no, I'm just telling you that, there's a whole lot of attack on the Senate President, and if things go down, if he resigns or something happens, I should know that I'm going to be held responsible, and I also go down. At that point, I started shouting. I was like, you can't call me at midnight and threaten me, sir. You can't do this. And mind you, I was actually surprised because the leader of the House is someone I respect greatly. He's a very good friend. He's a very calm person. And I believe, I'm saying it, that if he actually made those statements, he probably was told to do so. So I dropped the line. And then I dropped the line. The first conversation was just 2 minutes, 33 seconds. Then my phone rang again at 26 minutes past midnight, that same day. And then it was the same call, Senator Okpeyemi's line, but then it was the Senate President's voice. He said, Princess of the Senate. That's how he calls me casually. I've been attacked. My wife has not slept for days. She's been crying. She's received lots of insults, all because of you. I said, no, sir, it's not because of me. It's because of you. I didn't force you to order that statement. And I did not call on the support I received from Nigerian women. So don't blame it on me. Say, no, he's telling me this because the Dane of Akbo, I think he's a king in Akbo in Delta State. So the Dane of Akbo spoke with him and told him that that's the Senate President, was the most hated politician in Nigeria at that point. Mind you, that was a few days to the protest. There was this end bad governance protest on the 1st of August, and this incident happened like a week before. So he said the Dean of Akpabio told him, Mr. Senate President, you know, your rating is all low. You're one of the worst. You're one of the most hated politicians now. So I would advise, he said the Dean of Akpabio advised the Senate President to leave Abuja because if he is caught in the middle of the protest, he could be attacked by the Nigerians. I said, so why are you telling me this, sir? He said he's telling me because he found it insulting that the Dean of Akpabio would tell him to leave, to run away, to leave Abuja. And that he's telling me, he said, Natasha, I'm telling you, go and tell them that if anybody over the age of 20 approaches me during the protest, I will get, what was the word? Hold on. I will take that person down. The Senate President told me over the phone that based on the advice that the Dean of Akpabio gave him, that he should leave Abuja in the wake of the protest so that he will not be caught and probably will not be approached or attacked by the youth. He said, Natasha, I have the capacity, I'm number 3 citizen. If anybody over the age of 20 dares to confront me, I will take that person down. That person should dare me with his life. I said, at that point, I started shouting. I now told my husband, he didn't know the phone was on speakerphone all the while because I'd woken my husband up from the first speech. I was like, my love, can you hear what he's telling me? This is exactly what he does. At that point, when he knew, he was like, is your husband there? Oh, yeah. I said, yes, sir, my husband is here. And he heard everything. He then told me to pass the phone to my husband. And you know what he said? Immediately, he changed his tone. He was like, oh, Alema, I have a slot for you for an appointment from Delta State. Why don't you bring a nominee? And I took the phone back. I shouted at the Senate President. I said, you can't pacify us. You can't threaten me on one side and then pacify me. Sir, I'm aware, even though the conversations took place on by WhatsApp, I know that the DSS and the NSA's office, they have the tools to extract these phone calls. And
Senator Natasha,
I'm going to publish yes, sir.
Okay, Senator Natasha, thank you.
So and he told me that, well, all you want, hold on, please. He then told me that, Oshe, all I want is an apology. He would apologize on the floor that morning, and that he expects me to accept it. So all that morning, when I walked in, I was already threatened. I was already petrified. This is a man who had already called me at midnight, so I didn't sleep all night. I just had to say to his seamless apology.